back, everybody. Welcome to Baruch A'Havat Israel, KOLLEL in San Diego. You can find the Shi'ur by Nahan's Shi'ur on MISHNAYOT and I would like to dedicate this again to REFUAH SHELEMAH for Yitzchak ben Ella, and may he be full recovery. And to my great grandfather was named after David Getzel, Halevi. My current grandfather now, who's been in a wheelchair for a long time, Levi Huda Halevi. May he also feel better. And welcome to another shir, another learning session, another chance to learn Mishnayos. And we're going to be starting on Gimel. We're in middle of the third parak, the third chapter, and we're going to be starting on Gimel. So parak Gimel, Mishnah Gimel. So we spoke. Let's just recap a little bit. Yesterday we were speaking about somebody who passes away, and those people, if they're chayiv in the mitzvah of Shema, because they were oisik in a mitzvah, they were occupied with one mitzvah of burying the deceased. But what about Shema? What about other mitzvahs? So we spoke about different things. If they're in the middle of it, if they're carrying the casket, or they're waiting to carry the casket. We spoke about. So now we're going to speak about other types of people that are not chayiv at all in the mitzvah of Shema. Nashim va'avodim uketanim paturim mikriya Shema. So women, Canaanite slaves, and children are all patur from the mitzvah of Shema. They do not say the Shema. Well, they say the Shema, but they don't have an obligation, as a man does, to get up at a certain hour to make sure that he should be saying the Shema. The reason for this is because women and slaves go along with this, is that they are there's mitzvahs that are time bound. They have to do with a certain period of time that you have to fulfill the mitzvah, and women are not held. They don't fall into that category of having to do things with a time limit. And an example of that is the mitzvah of Shema and tefillin. Tefillin, there's a certain time. You have the whole day. I mean, really the whole day to go, at least until the sun starts to go down. So therefore, those two, we see that those are time-bound mitzvahs. The Shema, there's a certain time. Remember, we learned in the first parak, we learned all about the times of when you need to say the Shema, when the sun is rising up, and different opinions, when you can see the difference between blue and just reminding again from a long time ago, the blue and white. So these are mitzvahs that have time periods to them. And women and slaves, well, really women and slaves go after the halachos of women, meaning they fall under categories of what women have to do. These aren't Jewish; these are Canaanite slaves, so they fall under things that women have to do. They don't. Their laws don't go according to what men do. They go according to what women do. And we see and with Ketanim, it's a little bit of a different story, because when they're younger, they're not really chayiv in anything until they turn 13. They're not obligated to do anything. But really, it's speaking about, is the father obligated to go and make sure his son is saying the Shema? And it says over here that a father doesn't need to make sure his son is, or practicing, because really, his son is not actually obligated to do it, but maybe you would think that the father is obligated to make sure his son is practicing it. Like a kid becoming bar mitzvah and he's practicing to learn the Torah, how to read the Torah. So his father, making sure that are you doing your classes? Are you going to this? So here the father doesn't need to make sure his son is practicing for Shema. One of the reasons it gave over here is actually because the father, when he says his Shema, he's not really going to be around his son. He's going to be in shul. So either way, their paths aren't going to cross at the time of reciting the Shema. That's one of the reasons they spoke about it, as to why a katan doesn't need to his father doesn't need to be on top of him for that. So again, Noshim, Canaanite slaves, and small children that aren't at the age of 12 or 13. So not only Kriya Shema, but also Tefillin. A father doesn't need to start. It is a good thing that, you know, before his bar mitzvah, a boy should start learning how to put on tefillin. But it seems from here that a father doesn't have a chinuch mitzvah of making sure that his son is practicing putting on tefillin. It seems as though that he doesn't actually need to. Again, I don't know if that's halacha, but over here it says that. So here are the things that women, Canaanite slaves, and children are chayiv in doing, and it says they're chayiv. Chayavin b'tefillah. When it comes to davening, when it comes to the amida, the women are just as much as the men chayiv in this mitzvah because of divine mercy. Because when we daven, one of the biggest things we're davening for is mercy. I mean, we're davening for mercy, for Hashem's, you know, greatness, you know, to spare us in a way, which is not at all, you know, a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing to think about, that we can ask our Creator for you know, chances, and ask Him for, you know, things that we need, or different things that are going through our lives. So because of that reason, women are also bound to the mitzvah of tefillah. Again, tefillah is a midah, not kriya shema. And children should be learning to daven, to be learning the amidah, and even Canaanite slaves should be davening. Another mitzvah, mezuzah. A woman, if she lives by herself, she has to make sure that she has a mezuzah. It's not at all something that, you know, a man only puts a mezuzah. A woman can put a mezuzah as well, and, you know, if she doesn't know how to, she can call, say, you know, rabbi or whatever. But women are chayiv in the mitzvah of mezuzah if they're living by themselves. You know, if they're living with someone, there's probably, you know, maybe there's a problem, mezuzah up already, or whatever the case is. And the final one that women, Canaanite slaves, and children are chayiv is birkat hamazon, which is thanking Hashem. Is the birkat hamazon is thanking Hashem after you eat, you know, food. You know, when you ate and you're satisfied, so you thank Hashem for the food that He gave you, the land, and as well, women, Canaanite slaves, and children are chayiv in those mitzvahs. So that was Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah Dalet. For this, we're speaking about now a Baal Keri, a person who has a seminal emission, whether it be at night, whether it be during the day, whether it be by accident, whether it be on purpose. A person who emits semen from his body, he has his body becomes tameh in a sense, where he's not. And there was an enactment actually made by Ezra that a person like this is not allowed to learn Torah or even contemplate, to think about Torah. And nowadays it's a whole different discussion, but just for the sake, because also we're going to speak about the mikvahs of back in the day, what kind of mikvahs they went to, where we'll speak about, we'll get to that in a second, but this enactment is something that Ezra made a long time ago, that basically doesn't allow this person who his body's become tameh from, because he let go of this of the bodily fluids in him, the semen that came out of him. He is tameh now, and he should go to mikvah. But now we're going to speak about him. We're going to speak about what are his mitzvahs concerning Kriya Shema, because we're on this topic of Shema. This is the whole first, beginning of brachas is about Shema. What is his mitzvahs of Shema with Shemona Esrei, with Amida, Brachas Hamazon, different. We're gonna speak about all these different things concerning this person, but it's very important to know that a Baal Keri, Baal Keri is this type of person. Baal Keri meharher b'liboy ve'ein mavarich lo lefnei v'lo la'achrei. So Baal Keri, when it comes to the mitzvah of Shema, he's allowed to contemplate it. Again, we said that Ezra made that you're not allowed to contemplate it, but when it comes to Kriya Shema, you're allowed to contemplate. Okay, so say he didn't go to a mikvah, because we're going to speak about a case where he goes to the mikvah first. But first we're speaking about a Baal Keri who didn't go to a mikvah yet, and the time has come to recite the Shema. So he's allowed to say it, and he should say it with his mind. He should, think about the passage, think what they mean, what it means. Hashem is one. Hashem is, like Hashem is. What this all means. However, he shouldn't say the Shema he shouldn't say either the brachas before or the brachas after. Those brachas are rabbinical enactments, but the Kriya Shema, as we said before, that the first parak, the concentration is all deraisa. So because it's so, it's a deraisa, it comes from the Torah, we're very chamor about it, that you need to at least think about it. But the brachas before and after, a Baal Keri shouldn't even say them, because they're really derabanan. So, and he shouldn't be saying divrei Torah in the front or davening. Again, the enactment is not just learning Torah; it's also davening and things like that. I didn't mention before, but this Baal Keri is allowed to think about it, about the paragraphs of Shema, but he's not allowed to say the brachas before or after. Okay. When it comes to Berachas HaMazon, what should the Baal Keri do after finishing a meal? He should, enjoy. Should he recite this? Should he recite the passage of thanking Hashem for the food that he got? It says that Mavarch Lachrav, that he says the bracha for the afterwards, for the Berachas HaMazon. Ve'enu Mavarch Lefanav. I guess the brachas before, I guess, would be, say he washes on a piece of bread. I don't think he would say the hamotzi. I'm not exactly sure if that's what it's saying over here, or maybe he said, or maybe he just ate an apple, but he always says the brachas afterwards. He doesn't say the brachas before. That's what it says over here. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mavarich Lefnehem V'Lachreihem. Rabbi Yehuda says no. He says the brachas before and after. Rabbi Yehuda he disagrees and says that he allows the Baal Keri to verbally recite the biblically mandated Shema and Grace. So Rabbi Yehuda allows them to actually say Shema and to say the Berachas HaMazon, which is disagreeing machlokes in the other opinions. So Rabbi Yehuda's going against that. Okay. So now we're doing the hay. So we did, let's just do a little bit of recap, and we'll also recap at the end, that Noshim, Canaanite slaves, children, we did the things that they're not chayiv in so far, and we're speaking now, we spoke about the Baal Keri, and now we're going to speak a little bit more about the Baal Keri and more halachas concerning him. Haya aymeid b'tefila v'nizkar shehu Baal Keri lo yafsik v'elot yikatzer. So a Baal Keri who's davening the Amida. So we said that he's not allowed to daven. He has and he's not allowed to say the Shemona Esrei. Again, we said different opinions about the Shema, that he should at least everybody agrees at least contemplate it. If you don't go according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says you can say it, you should at least contemplate it. Everyone agrees on that point. But here we see that tefillah the case is now is that the Baal Keri is in the middle of davening Shemona Esrei, and he remembers v'nisker shu Baal Keri. He remembers that he's a Baal Keri. He remembers what happened. He remembered what happened. Now he's tameh. So what should he do? Should he stop, or should he continue going? Should he do tshuva for having said the things that he did? Let's see. So he shouldn't stop. And the reason for this is because of, again, divine mercy, because tefillah is so important that if you're in the middle of it and you didn't, and you're Baal Keri, you can still finish because the things you're asking for are so precious, are so great, divine mercy, it says over here in the commentaries. Rather, so you shouldn't stop if the Baal Keri is in the middle of it. You shouldn't stop. Rather, you should cut the bracha short. What I mean by cut the bracha short is you say the first part. An example will be Atachayne. So you say Atachayne la'adam das. The next word will be Mabit. You say you would want to say the middle part, but you don't say the middle part. The Baal Keri doesn't say the middle part. Rather, he says Baruch Atah Hashem Chayne das. He finishes it with the bracha. So he says the first part, skips the middle part, and says the bracha in the end. That's what he should do concerning if he found himself in the middle of Shmona Esrei and now he remembered that he's a Baal Kari. What should he do? He should not stop and just just give up on the Amidah. Rather, he should say it, but just make it smaller portions. Like just start with the beginning and then say the bracha after. Okay, Yorid Litbol. So now we're speaking about a Baal Kari. Everything before this, we're speaking about a Baal Kari who didn't go to mikvah. Now we're speaking about a Baal Kari who, when he wakes up in the morning, realizes what happened, and he goes to the mikvah to get rid of this so that he can say the Shema properly without having to go through these different steps of saying in his mind, this and that. So so he went to immerse himself in the mikvah. So if he went down, if he went into the mikvah and he is able to come up and able to cover himself. So before there's a little background that you're not allowed to say a mitzvah. You're not allowed to do something, a mitzvah, or say davening, this and that, when your heart can see your genitals. So therefore you need to cover it. So right now he's in the mikvah, and they're basically giving a case of that if he's able to go into the mikvah, get up from the mikvah, and it's not nitzacham, it's not it's not time yet to say the Shema, and it's about to be the time. He's able to get up, cover himself, and then say it. It's fine. That's the best way to do it. If Chaz Shalom, somebody becomes about it, the best thing to do is to go early in the morning, before you can even say Shema, to go into a mikvah, cover yourself up, and then you can say the Shema. The imlav, and if he's not able to do this in time, he just wakes up just in time just to get into the mikvah, but while he's in the mikvah, the sun is coming up, and he wants to be specific in saying the Shema at that exact time. So there actually is such an ideal that so this has to do with the olden day mikvahs. Nowadays, I guess this maybe would be different. I don't know exactly. I'm not speaking halacha. We're just learning Mishnah, which is halacha in its own, but it's halacha that needs a lot of Gemara along with it to really understand what's going on. But the mikvahs, I don't believe it's talking about mikvahs nowadays. It's talking about mikvahs back then, which were made from an actual ground, was dug up in the ground and filled with water, and there was a muddy bottom. So what happens here in this case, where he's not able to make it to that perfect time, where he's able to cover himself with a robe and then say the Shema, rather he's in the water and Netzacham is already creeping up and it's already time to say it. So he gets he's a little sad that he's missing it. It's fine. You can stay in the water. All you have to do is kick your feet a little bit, and we said before the mikvahs of old, the bottoms would be in a pit, so the water would become a little murky, would become a little muddy. So his heart wouldn't be able to see his genitals. So therefore, he's able to actually say the Shema, because something is blocking it. He was not able to see it. So, however, if this mikvah smelt bad, again, so just a little bit of recap. So, this person is in the mikvah and he doesn't have the time to get up and cover himself. That's the first case. The first case we said is that the best thing to do, he gets up, he goes into the mikvah, gets up, puts on his towel, and then says the Shema. But now he's in the water, and the time's coming, and it's already going to be past Netzacham if he doesn't get his act together, and he's in the mikvah. So he kicks a little bit of dirt, and it's fine. But what happens if that dirt doesn't smell so great, or the mikvah itself doesn't smell that great, or there's something next to him that doesn't smell good? So therefore he can't say it. Therefore he would have to get up and put his robe on and say it at a later time. But if the water itself was used for soaking flax, different stuff, like the water I guess, had two parts to it. It was a mikvah, and there was other things that go on there during the day. They soaked flax, or they, or it's just not, it was foul water. It just wasn't the nicest water. Therefore, the person is not able to say, he's not able to use this trick of kicking up the dirt, shaking his leg around a little bit and making the dirt move over, so it's able to block everything from him. Rather, he's not able to do that. So that's another thing. So now here's just because we're talking about foul smells and things along that line of being not able to say a bracha, because you're not allowed to say a bracha in front of things that smell bad, or this is not connected. This is connected to this, but also in front of a not tznius woman. There's different opinions for saying learning or saying bracha for that. But one thing. So now we ask a question that's related to this. It says, the question is, how far can you be away from the actual thing that they name is excrement? How far can you be away from it that you're finally able to say a bracha again? Is it the same room? Is it you have to be completely out of the building? What's the exact number or measurement of how can I tell when I can say a bracha again if I'm in front of excrement? And the excrement is really just an example for all things that are foul. Water, a urine that's in a bowl. That's in a toilet or whatever. The answer is arba ambos, which is considered a person's personal camp. Four amos around you, which is it's not that much. So you don't have to go into a different room, whatever. As long as it seems like from this, again, this is not halacha l'maisa, but it's just the Mishnah. The Mishnah's ruling that you don't have to go all the way outside of a building. It's just 4 amos around you. You have to back up a little bit, and then you're able to say brachas again, and that would be the time. That would be the amount, the amount that you have to go away from it. So we just finished Gimel, Dalet, and Hey. We have one more Mishnah left in Perek Gimel, and then we'll be moving on to Perek Dalet. I want to thank everybody for joining us today and listening. And go to nisatorah.org. Thank you for joining in the Baruch A'Havat Israel, KOLLEL in San Diego. We're very happy to be giving shiurim and people listening and hopefully enjoying. And thank you very much for being part of the journey. And again, REFUAH SHELEMAH to all the people that I mentioned, Yitzchak Ben Ella, and my grandfather Levi Huda Halevi. And maybe all, again, I said yesterday about the 3 weeks that it's a very important time to just think a lot about what's going on, and especially in the world, especially with Jews, how different tragedies are happening. A lot of terrible tragedies happen during these times, and they're not random. It didn't happen just for us to pass over them and to not believe in that there's a God and there's something going on out there. So yeah, maybe we take the 3 weeks and we take these mishnayos to our heart and become better every day and just be great, be great people. All right, thank you. Shkoch.